order. Are you guys ready to start?
I'd like to call this meeting of the Board of Tax Assessors to order. Our agenda is workshop, okay? And so all in favor? Aye. Okay. We're in session.
Is this, is this an official meeting for us?
This is just a work session.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Any particular line item you want to start with? We just go down the list?
Yeah, why don't we just start at the top, go down.
Okay. With the salary and wages, each year we graciously ask you guys to consider, compensation for the staff in order to keep the stability of the office. We have found that being competitive with our wages has helped us to be able to have that stability that we need in order to keep the office running in the manner that it needs to. We've been very fortunate these last couple of years, especially with being able to have digest approvals. We made it out of a consent order. We passed our 2019 digest without any deficiencies. So we feel it's really important, the board feels it's really important to have, those credentials and to have that staffing in place. So last year, you guys were gracious enough to give us a sum of money that we were able to split amongst the lower end of the staff. So that was about 6 employees. So this year, what we're asking for would help to compensate the other portion of the staff that did not receive any compensation.
I was thinking though that we compensated the higher end of the staff the year before last. This was a 2-year thing. The year before last, we got the upper end, and then last year we got the lower end.
Right, we have been doing lower, upper for a while, so we've kind of kept that cycle. We haven't done an across the board yet. We were thinking of doing that last year, but the focus really stayed more on that lower. But we had to really start from the bottom as just trying to go in phases from lower to upper,
Yeah.
So that way it wouldn't be such a significant jump. So.
I just want to make sure though that the upper folks did get something.
They did in the previous year, yes sir, yes sir. So now we're just trying to keep that wage gap so it doesn't, close between the lower and the uppers. So.
Well, of course, we won't be coming up with any kind of a figure today.
Correct.
We'll talk about why you need what you're asking for. And then after all these meetings are over, we'll put it all together, compare it to our estimated revenue, and see how much we got to take back away from it.
We always appreciate that consideration. We are, I know it's always a big question, we are meeting the minimum staffing requirements with the Department of Revenue. However, our workload does continue to increase year to year. As you know, living in this county, we have some new developments going in. So the more developments we have, the more new construction, the more parcel count. So that does tend to put a strain on the appraisers because right now we really have them to a point that they're pretty extended in their workload. So that leads me into our professional services, where we have added in money. As you know, each year we work with an outside vendor to help kind of alleviate some of that workload for the employees. We feel it's crucial to the office to keep us to where we need to be and not to overextend that workload so that way we don't miss important deadlines or our self-ratios with the Department of Audits. Each year, though, I do base that figure on the needs of the office. So instead of keeping, you will see that it was previously 5,000, and this year it's up to 22. Of that, we're asking for a portion for the outside contract is $18,750. But that also includes in that line item our legal fees, and also we pay out of that for the random drug testing that's done by the county. Last year, we didn't need as much services from our vendor, so instead of keeping a lump sum out there year to year, I just try to base that on a realistic figure. So because we try to do zero-based budgeting, I want to make sure that when we put in a number from year to year, it's not overinflated. So although it does look like a pretty jump and an increase there, just know that it's because last year we only needed, approximately like $3,000 last year.
Now, refresh my memory, but year before last, was one of those years when we needed a lot more, wasn't it?
We did, yes. So every year, yes. And we feel that this year it's important to address, certain items of the county that would be crucial, like our commercial improvements, our land schedules, things of that nature that we feel like is going to continue to help us to be successful in passing those Department of Audit studies, which are important because those are what dictates whether or not we could ever find ourselves in a situation with, any type of consent order. So I try to have that on a cycle from year to year, so that way it's not, like I said, overinflated, and that way it's a more realistic figure. Travel and expense, that's just educational. I know you guys are in the same situation as we are with the learning curve. The Department of Revenue converted a lot of their classes to online. We don't know, what's going to happen as far as in-person versus online. So in that line item, I counted for us being able to attend in person. But of course, that's just going to dictate what happens, with the Department of Revenue, COVID and everything. So that slight increase there you're seeing is just for inflationary, just where some hotels went up on their fees and things of that nature.
So this figure here would be appropriate as the worst case, assuming in-person classes all the way around?
That's correct. Yes, that's correct.
Are y'all pretty well set up for the Zoom meetings and that sort of thing if the classes go that way?
We are, and with the additional equipment that we are getting from the CARES Fund, that'll help with that. I actually had 2 employees last week do a virtual class with the Department of Revenue to get their 20 hours, and one of my Board of Assessor members. So it actually worked out pretty good, but at this point, it's new still to the Department of Revenue as far as getting their curriculum on a virtual basis, because they, like everyone else, was so used to doing in-person learning, they're now having to get that, set up, and there's limitations with the number of people that can be in the class. So that's been one of the things. Normally we could have 40, 50 people in any given class, and now it's condensed to like 28, 30. So they're finding themselves having to offer more and more classes. And of course, the DOR agents have their own responsibilities outside of teaching. Contract services, that just covers our day-to-day license fees, items that we need to operate the office. We have asked in here for a one-time setup fee. It's $3,240 to put our business personal property accounts on the website. We think that would be important for the office moving forward. It really speaks to the transparency that we want to project. It would give owners an opportunity to look at their business information. Now, there is a lot of privileged information, but they could search their accounts. That can help us in numerous ways of being able to, if a business is closed and they forgot to tell us, that way the tax commissioner doesn't end up, issuing a FIFA. The number of hits that we have on our website daily is astonishing. So I feel like the more information we can put out there for the property owners, the more it benefits them. There would be no additional hosting fee involved in this going forward. It would just be the one-time fee to set up that particular module onto the website.
Now, is this separate from the one-time fee that we put into the CARES Act funding?
This is.
How much was that one-time fee?
$3,240. The CARES Act is where we're going to be able to put on there the homestead applications. We're going to be able to have the new website design that's ADA compliant. It's a little bit more user-friendly, I think. It's also going to allow individuals to file their appeals online. So COVID has really taught us a lot about what services can be available online and how we can help the property owners of this county to feel safe and feel like they can still accomplish what they need to with our office. Or, it's just simply the convenience that they like to do it from home. So, but our goal with the personal property, this would be the first step in it, but our goal would be, as the website develops its software, would be able to have people be able to file their personal property returns online. That was a big request this year. But it is something that there has to be some security in place, so the website is working on developing stuff. The first step is just getting our accounts out there. But when I say businesses, this also includes boat owners. So if you own a boat, you would be able to eventually file your return online. If you own a boat and you sold that boat, which is very popular too, you would see that account out there and you would know, hey, I need to notify the assessor's office. I no longer have this. So really, I think it's just getting the information out there to the property owners. Other than that fee, everything else included is our traditional operating fees, which also includes the payment. This will be number 2 of 3 for the aerial photography and the change finder. So the change finder is working out really good. We're about 50% complete with that project. We are finding revenue. We're also losing a little revenue with some demolishings that are taking place, but we're picking up additions. We're picking up a lot of structures that we couldn't necessarily access or know or see. So I think it's working out really good for verification of that data. So.
And that's all that's under contract service.
That is under contract services. Of that amount there, $30,391 is what's contributed to the aerial photography and change finder. So that's why it's a little more, than our typical operation cost, because we do build that fee into there. Supplies and material, again, that's just our typical, we've got our typical operating cost. We have had to spend a little bit more this year with supplies because of COVID in order to hand sanitizer, wipes, because my field appraisers are, out in the field. I want to make sure, that they're able to sanitize from, property to property. So as you guys know, it's kind of hard to find those supplies, but, we did our best to, get as many extra supplies, but we don't typically account for that stuff. So, and also we were looking into maybe some cell boosters for the vehicles, because we're finding that in the county, we're finding that we're dropping service a little bit more than we used to. So we are trying to explore maybe some type of antenna boosting device so that when the appraisers are out in these very remote areas, they're still getting, that cell service.
Because they're working on their laptops, right?
Yes, on their iPads. Yes, they're working on their iPads. The county's carrier is Verizon, and anybody that lives here knows it's hit or miss between Verizon and AT&T, depending on where you're at in the county. So.
Yeah. Are y'all still using those little iPad things to automatically upload changes when you're in the field?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. What you're talking about for the cars, though, will not boost that, right? You'll still.
Well, what we're trying to find is basically kind of like a hotspot, but some type of device we can put so when they're only down to like one bar, if the iPad gets hung up because it can't just get any service, we're trying to get a device that we can, with a little antenna that maybe can reach for at least a bar or two of service. Because sometimes the appraisers find, if they're in a very remote area, and sometimes it takes 45 minutes for them to just drive out to an area. It's hard if the iPad freezes because it can't find any service whatsoever. So
But now in that situation, will it hold the data up when it gets in range, then it will upload it?
it will, but it does, the problem is that it can get stuck on the screen. So I'm not going to say that's an Apple issue. I'm just going to say in general, it can get stuck. And sometimes they have to find themselves driving back to try to pick up a bar so it can refresh itself. So
I was going to voice my opinion of Apple, but I just realized we're being recorded, so.
I'll keep mine to myself as well. So we did add a little bit extra in there. We added $1,100 in there to try to come up. We have 6 vehicles, so we are trying to see about that. If we have money in our current budget and if we can find something, we'll absolutely, try to take care of it this year. But we just wanted to go ahead and put that in there as a safety net. On a side note, because I know it never gets actually accounted for because of the auditing purposes, but it doesn't reflect in our budget because typically we don't bring in, ideally our office doesn't bring in money to the county. But on a side note, I just would like to say that based on our conservation use breaches, that is something, money that our office, our employees, work through the program, work with the property owners for the breaches, and every year, we have found that money does fluctuate, but so far this year, we have collected $31,269 in breach money. So that's revenue that's not accounted for. And we anticipate in October that we'll have a breach for over $84,000.
Wow.
So that should bring us to around 115. So that's typically credited in Becky's, so she actually gets the money. But I think it's always just worth noting because our office is the ones, that oversees the program. It's our employees, it's our paperwork, it's our Board of Assessors that, approves it, so.
That's helpful when you're bringing in some money that way, but what I'm really interested in from the Board of Assessors, and I'm not losing that, I like the idea of that money coming in, but what I really, really, really want from the Board of Assessors is not to have to spend any more penalty money. And so far, y'all are doing well on that, so.
Yes, 2019 was a review year. That we passed R19 with no deficiencies. So that means that we are good for the next 3 years with the Department of Audit. That is the first time that this office has passed a digest review since prior to 2007 without any deficiencies.
Very good, very good.
So I think that's basically everything else stayed the same, or they were figures that Sandy had me placed in there.
Personnel stuff?
Yeah, personnel stuff. So that's basically for my part, and then we have the Board of Assessors.
Let me ask you a question on the first two items. We're talking about a 5.7% increase in salaries and wages and about a 9.4 in the first line. Is there some significance to the odd figure being used for administration salaries? Usually it's a rounded figure,
So the Board of Assessors just based that on an overall dollar amount with the employees because they are paid based on their appraisal level. Their base dollar amount is staggered between the people that are under consideration. So that throws off that percentage there.
But I guess the other part of my question is, it's an odd figure for the first item. Is that a mandated something? Usually your salaries are even dollars. 84,261.
It's just where they, yeah, just adding in that increase, and because it started with a 77, that's how the math just worked out for the 84. So it's not a percent, it was based on a dollar figure.
9.4%, okay. Well, I found the tax assessor's office to be responsive to my request even before I was elected.
Yeah.
So keep up the good work.
Thank you, sir. Any questions more about the tax assessors?
I don't have any more.
Okay. So next we have the Board of Assessors. Is that on one sheet for them as well, Sandy?
It's on the bottom of the same page. It's just not a whole bunch of lines.
So with the Board of Assessors, the increases that you see there are again just your typical in-person training. So we pay with the Board of Assessors based on their salary and per diem. Some of it is paid out of salary and wages, and some of it is paid out of travel and expense. So that's why you see an increase on the salary part. It's not a per meeting increase or anything of that nature. It's just we base our education with the office staff and with the Board of Assessors based on the needs of those educational hour requirements. So what you're seeing there for the increase in salary, travel expense, and education and training is just the needs of the office and what board members are required for their hours to be maintaining their certification, and also just a little bit of inflationary like hotel cost. Again, that's assuming we'll be able to do in person. If that changes, then, you know, they'll remove to virtual learning again. So this year, the board members, in order to satisfy their hours, have been doing online training with the University of Georgia. They partnered with the Department of Revenue. UGA offers online classes, work at your own pace type courses. So the board members have been taking that in order to get their accredited hours. So
I had to do 3 days of that this week. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
right,
Sitting at my
so
dining room table.
it's definitely a new learning experience for everybody to do that. So again, with the education, we built that assuming we're going to do in person because there are certain, from the Department of Revenue, accredited hours that we have to get each year. And then, of course, there's seminars where they go over the updates of the laws and things of that nature. So.
I wanted to mention about the staff, and that when you look at what she said briefly about having no deficiencies on that audit, it's huge for the county. It allows us to get all of the tax revenue that we possibly can because of that. So staying in compliance with that is extremely difficult. And I personally get some phone calls from people that think we're the tax commissioner's office as well. But it's a lot of fun explaining the differences in these things as well. But if you look at it, they're trying to leverage some technology to be more efficient, to maintain the minimum staffing that we can, to be in compliance with the state once again. But those type of things is, and because of what you've done, giving some raises to some of these people, we've been able to retain staff better and limit turnover, so we avoid that retraining curve and stuff. So that's, just want to kind of give you from my perspective, I think I'll speak for the rest of you guys, what we see.
Well, I can relate to getting those calls. I get a lot of those myself, and I have to very patiently explain to them that Gary Engelman's who you need to be talking to.
I appreciate that. 'Cause I have very little
That's
to
the
do
reason
with
for all your
it.
calls.
Yeah, I love that.
I don't have any other questions.
Thank you for staying within your budget last year.
You're welcome. Yes, that is our goal every year. We try to stay within budget or under. Sometimes we get some legal fees that are not budgeted for, but we do try to do our best to, still balance that out. The office and the board prides itself on doing zero-based budgeting. So every dollar in here is accounted for and allocated. So there's really not much wiggle room. And so when we might have an unexpected court case or something like that, that's where it may throw off, one of those line items. So, but do know that we try our best to keep within those budgets.
One of the things that we need to mention is this year, have been dealing with a appeal process that's gone through the Board of Equalization and was threatened to go to Superior Court. We were able to work with David Park and get this settled out of court as far as evaluation of it, which is pretty important because a lot of times it goes to Superior Court. We're very cautious about that because legal fees can come back and be charged to the county. We were able to settle that out of court and with an agreement that we would not be paying any of the legal fees that the taxpayer had accumulated, which was significant and can be really significant. And some attorneys, you'll notice, specialize in this type of thing, and so we really have to defend ourselves from the county's perspective in negotiations, and these folks do a really good job of that. That was significant that we were able to settle that this year, which has been going for a couple of years.
One of the first things I got hit with when I first took office in 15 was legal fees that shortly after I took office, it was determined that we had to pay several tens of thousands of dollars. It was
It's not cheap. So we were able to avoid that this year because of some negotiations that they did.
Good.
And we were able to get that done. David Clark helped us out a lot. Of course, these folks did a good job at that. Very good. And the whole board, we negotiated back and forth. There was 2 or 3 times. So this guy that I can't, it's just amazing. Anyway, so, because the money that you're saving, if you pay those legal fees, it's not that much.
Thank you so much for your consideration.
Thank you.
That might,
It is.
I think it'd be better without it. I mean,
You think it would be better without it?
we just, let me just.
Push your button, or do you have to vote?
Or we can just tap it?
We closed our meeting, so thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Gary, we appreciate it.
Since 3 of the 5 of us who showed up, we just
Thank y'all.
thank y'all.
Yes, and it's past those houses.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, so it's on up the hill where you're talking about.
Thank you all so much.
And that's on me, because I told
We
her,
really appreciate it.
I'm gonna take it up to the
Appreciate the
church.
support. Thank you very
So,
much.
I don't.
I can fix
Y'all
it,
too.
but not
Y'all
this
do a
year.
great job.
Better believe it. I just showed up. All right, it's late.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have quite a few that didn't use their travel expenses and did use some of their money last year because of this.
And that's an issue that we can't
Right.
rely on that.
Right. I just didn't know.